Sometimes an anime manages to receive praise and acclaim, yet it doesn't manage to leave a big enough impact to become iconic or even memorable. These anime tend to dwell on top lists on various anime databases, but nobody hardly ever speaks of them. This is my tribute to one of them. There are many reasons why Usagi Drop is great. Casting Ayu Matsura as the voice actress for Rin was a revelation. The first scene of every episode is drawn in watercolor, perfectly in capturing the innocent, calm and childlike. The characters are endearing to the point where you can watch them do pretty much anything and it will be delightful. And the animation itself, while not the best, is used very wisely. I can keep going, but today we're not reviewing Usagi Drop. We're here to talk about one reason amongst many why we should appreciate it. At this point, if you have not watched Usagi Drop, then throw it on your to-watch list. No major spoilers here though. In the world of storytelling and writing, everything can be a story, no matter how grand or mundane it seems. But when it comes to writing a story, then it's rare to find one that really is quote-unquote just about something ordinary. But when done right, even that is possible. The last work by the late Satoshi Kon is a 1-minute short called Ohio or Good Morning, and it's literally a story about the concept of getting yourself up in the morning, and it is beautiful. Go watch it. The fact of the matter just is that it's harder making an interesting story out of something mundane. Fiction, amongst other things, is about escapism, endless possibilities and entertainment, and writers tend to succumb to that, which is perfectly fine, but it also just means that we don't really have that many well-told ordinary stories. It's difficult to portray the mundane or normal aspects of life. It's very raw, and there is no trick to it. A lot of writers struggle with this, so they tend to add something to spice things up. Let's throw in a bunch of jokes about the parent not knowing how to take care of the child and call it a comedy. Or let's throw in an illness or a fight for custody and call it a drama. There is nothing wrong with that, but again, stories that doesn't take detours from the mundane yet still manage to be entertaining to experience are hard to come by. It's a bit easier to find in movies, but that's just because there is so many more movies than anime. I can also be the first to admit that in my collection there is not nearly as many movies about ordinary things as opposed to movies diving into the fantastical. Lost in Translation is a lovely example. It's a film about a guy meeting a woman in Japan and they kind of do casual stuff together. No over-the-top dramatic plot points, no twists and turns, it's the mundane life portrayed on film. These Miyazaki productions captures that feeling nicely too, even if they have some supernatural elements in them. But why not add some spice to it? It is fiction after all. I once had a conversation with a coworker and he was very persistent about the fact that he watches movies to experience something amazing and grand. He proceeded to back up his argument with the fact that if he wanted to see something ordinary, he could just open his eyes. And if he wanted to see something depressing and quote-unquote real, then he could just turn on the news. These arguments are airtight. I may not agree with them, but I really do get where my coworker was coming from. My initial response was that sometimes these ordinary stories can be entertaining to me due to sheer likability and depth of the characters. But after giving it a bit more thought, then I think it's about inspiration. Have I escaped, laughed and cried at several comedies and dramas involving a parent and child relationship? Absolutely, but none of them have inspired me the way Usagi Drop has. To me, great writing is either when something fantastical becomes relatable or when something ordinary becomes fantastic. If you are watching a show and you catch yourself getting into it, even when the pivotal points of the episodes are dealing with a child peeing in bed or whether or not the father is going to make it to the daycare in time, then you've escaped into a story that could very well resemble your own one day. And that is when we let ourselves inspire. It's not that the show does not have any emotional moments, but they do come in very subtle shapes. This is a show where a father becomes the world's greatest dad, not due to some grand gesture, but just by always being there, by giving his daughter the perfect sympathetic smile when he can see that she is obviously struggling with something. It's about how little gestures in passing can turn the world upside down for a child, and it's about how sometimes the best parents are the ones that never stops prioritizing their child and wouldn't have it any other way because deep inside they feel anything else would be immoral. In Usagi Drop, there is no running in the rain screaming the name of someone who has run away. There is no dramatic death or illness to create drama, and there is no over-the-top slapstick to make everyday tasks seem comical. Even when scenes happen that could potentially be very dramatic, they really keep it mellow and down to earth. There is a scene where the guardian, Daikichi, is meeting up with the mother who once gave Rin up, and while you certainly can feel his anger, he handles it like an adult, never letting go of the thought that it's all about Rin. We cannot have a huge dramatic moment with loud music. It would sell well, but it just wouldn't make sense. It would make the scene be more about Daikichi than Rin, and that is not the character that Daikichi is being portrayed as. But we still watch because of how well crafted the production is. The characters are endearing, and they sell the hell out of the idea that a simple story about a man learning to become a father is more than enough to intrigue an audience. And it does. And it did. But there is one elephant in the room, that being the ending of the manga. And I really didn't want to talk about it here, but let's face it, when you mention Usagi Drop, half the people listening will think of that manga. So the manga covers the story after the ending of the anime. I'm not going to reveal what happens here, but just imagine a person that has only prejudice and very stereotypical bias towards Japanese writing, and it is this person who is supposed to guess what an ending to a story between a father and a daughter could be. Yeah, it really is face-palmingly stupid and contradictory to the entire narrative. But it doesn't bother me. There is a reason why Production IG ended up only using the first chapters for their story. They knew that part of the story was solid. Also, popularity means money, and there is more fictional works to count that have been getting terrible sequels or continuations by the same authors and others, and yeah, it just doesn't bother me because so many writers have tried to ruin their stories, and it should not take away from the first one. Anime can be very loud, very colorful and fantastic, but being able to do everything is also being able to restrain, and in the case of subtle, ordinary and inspirational stories in anime, they don't come stronger than Usagi Drop.